So, Wired for Success, roadmapping your well-being journey. So, a little about myself. Briefly, I'm a talent and executive consultant, an organizational psychologist, big background in education as well, and founder of THC Consultancy, business executive coach, and MBA certified. So I help corporations identify untapped talent, manage change, and create a future-oriented culture. My details are there if you'd like to have a look. And Cindy, would you like to introduce yourself there?
Yes. Hello. Thank you for inviting me again, Teresa. And I have gathered several interesting training sessions from people that I consider very important. The first one was mindfulness meditation teacher from Thich Nhat Hanh, and the neuroplasticity coach papers that I also got from Rick Hansen, who continues to be, just a very interesting researcher and person to turn to. Linda Graham is also a psychologist, and she gave me a practitioner's license for resilience, and I enjoyed the 2 weeks works that I had with her as well. I'm a certified yoga teacher since 12 years. And am an artist, and also have gone through the MBA together with Teresa, and enjoy leading a group myself this year. So those are some of the things that I've enjoyed learning, and I always enjoy offering the things that I have learned to others.
Yeah, thank you, Cindy. Thank you. So just moving on. So what are your key takeaways today? You get the audio of Wired for Success, roadmapping your wellbeing journey. You'll also get a workbook that will give you more ideas that you can enact for yourself personally or share at your workplace. And also recommended reading, books that we feel are very pertinent to this whole area. And I believe that in order to really feel affirmed in what you've learned, it's necessary to share it. So learning hoarded is growth denied in my book. And it's if I share my learning, I grow, but you also grow as well. So it's the ripple effect of learning down the line. So looking at health and well-being, let's look at the definition of health. It means everyone achieving to his or her potential to enjoy complete physical, mental, and social well-being. So you'll note that healthy people contribute to the health and quality of society in which they live, work, and play. Health is much more than the absence of disease and disability. And individual health and that of a country affects the quality of life for everybody, the quality of the lived experience in any nation. Health is an essential resource for everyday life, for public good, and it's an asset for health and human development. So really what the literature wants us to do, or is advising, is that we consider health and well-being that requires a shift of our focus from what can go wrong in people's lives to actually focusing on what makes lives go well. So in any, be you living in Ireland or abroad, Google the key information. For us, we're looking at Healthy Ireland Framework 2013 to 2025. We're looking at Connecting for Life, Ireland's national strategy to reduce suicide 2015 to 2020. And the update is on its way. And we're looking at a vision for change, because all of it demands change, and a change of mindset, and an openness to learning across the lifespan and across your work life. Now, what's well-being? Well-being is an integral part of the definition of health. It reflects the quality of life and the various factors which can influence that quality of life over the course of your life, notwithstanding whatever experiences you go through, etc. Well-being, it also reflects the concept of positive mental health, in which a person can realize his or her own abilities, coping with normal stresses, work productively and fruitfully, and be able to contribute to your community. So it's all about building up that reserve and being able for the hard times along with the good times and learning from it. And as we went through the last week, we talked about the growth mindset and the fixed mindset. It's all about knowing that the power is with you to develop that growth mindset. So consideration of health and well-being requires that shift, as you can see, that shift in focus and that ownership, that taking the power over your own life and the direction you want it to go in. The language and definition, we still use the WHO's 2001 definition because it seems to encapsulate it all. A state of well-being is one in which the individual realizes his or her own abilities, can cope with the normal stresses of life, can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make a contribution to his or her own community. Now, I love this slide because it covers it all. It gets it all in. The domains and the supporting initiatives and activities that you can take back with you to your workplace, enact it in your own life as well. And it's on this, the website, noted there on top, and you will get that in the recording. So when we look at health, in the workplace, you go to your work as a total integrated being, the private and the professional come wrapped in one. We're talking about physical health, we're talking about physical safety in the workplace, all got to do with the health and safety policies, etc. in the workplace. But we're talking about mental health as well, which is, we find it hard to get our mouths around that word. We find it hard to openly acknowledge it because there's this perceived notion that we may be portraying a weakness. Look at good work, the working environment, the ergonomics of the work environment you work in, good line management, the work demands, making sure that those demands are matched with suitable resourcing. Autonomy, the autonomy within the workplace to make decisions, the autonomy to work off your own initiative, because in the adaptive leadership style, everybody is a leader in their own right. Change management, having that openness to change, not seeing it as a threat. Pay and rewards, feeling that you are justly paid for what you're doing. That's closely aligned to the psychological contract, which is all sewn together or glued together with trust. Look at the values and principles, leadership, the leadership styles that you experience in the workplace, ethical standards in action, in the DEI, the diversity, equity, equality, and inclusion. Now come to the collective, the social, employees' voice, which is so, so important. And it's a proven fact that even if employees are invited to voice their opinions and see that some of their points are taken on board, they're far more likely to give their all and to be highly, highly engaged in the workplace. And that whole notion of building positive relationships. I've come across a lovely definition of leadership, and they say that leadership is the art of relationship. I think it gets it all. It's very, very important. Personal growth, your career development. Do you feel that your employer and your workplace, that they're actually invested in your career development, your emotional lifelong learning, your creativity? Is there any voice, anything given to that in your workplace? Do you feel that anybody cares about that angle of you as a person and as a worker? Good lifestyle choices, physical activity, healthy eating. Is there any evidence in your workplace that there is attention given to this area? And then finally, the financial well-being, the different, I suppose, the different policies and structures in place that are looking after your health and well-being, fair pay and benefit policies, retirement planning, employee financial support. And it never ceases to amaze me in my work as an organizational psychologist, particularly when I'm working one-to-one. People get so immersed in what they're doing that they rarely think of strategically planning for their own lives and their own careers. And suddenly they hit into their 50s and they wake up and say, oh my God, never thought of that. Okay, so you must, in choosing your CPD as you go along, you must always be thinking strategically for the future as well as for the organization in the present that you're working in. So mental health then, it includes the emotional, psychological, the social well-being. It's inextricably linked to the physical health. So mental health, cradle to grave, it's a continuum. Increases in the risk of mental ill health trigger the domino effect of risk to overall well-being. which can start to decline. And unless you become aware of that point at which it's declining and seek to intervene, you could end up in trouble. So many factors contribute to your mental well-being. As you can imagine, the genes and the brain chemistry and the biological factors, your life experiences. Some people go through a lot of trauma. They bring with them maybe abuse from the past, etc. And certain things in work may cause them to become triggered, and others don't understand why. Family history, of course, as well, is a big factor in this whole equation. So just a few key facts about mental health. It's growing health, social, economic issues, and it's expected that depressive mental illness will be a leading cause of chronic disease in high-income countries by 2030. And post-COVID, you can see that happening, can't you? 1 in every 4 will experience mental health problems during his or her lifetime. So it's an area that shouldn't be neglected or swept under the carpet in the workplace. Ireland's mortality rate from suicide in the age group of 15 to 24 is the 4th highest in the EU. And imagine it's the 3rd highest among young men aged between 15 to 19. That is alarming. Now, 1 in 20 participants of this longitudinal study of carried out on people over the age of 50, the TILDA it was called, reported a doctor's diagnosis of depression, with a similar number reporting a diagnosis of anxiety. And the worrying thing is the aligned willingness to prescribe. And I mean, the number of 20-somethings and 30-somethings who are medicated for these areas, it's like putting a patch on a problem. Is it really getting to the problem? Obviously, certain things trigger all of this, like economic crises. We saw it here in 2008 with the downturn, and it was global. And we also saw it during lockdown and post-lockdown. I mean, and this definitely was a global thing. I've had reports back from even New Zealand and how it is in evidence in New Zealand, the number of shops, the number of restaurants that have to close at 6 in the evening because they no longer can get personnel. The same is happening here. So it seems what we're experiencing here is mirrored across the world this time. So the benefits of strong mental health, it's self-evident. Positivity and optimism with yourself, within yourself, and with your interactions with others. Self-reliance, there's nothing like self-reliance as that backup, knowing that no matter what happens in your life, you can depend on yourself, you'll get out of it some way. Clarity of vision, mission, and purpose for yourself, you carry that with you into the workplace, and it does color the culture of the workplace ultimately, and your contribution to that workplace. Your ability to bounce back once you're knocked down, that's your resilience. And I'll show you a package later called the RAW, the Workplace Resilience and Wellbeing, which is brilliant at benchmarking where people are on that across 5 different pillars. Avert stress leading to burnout. Heightened staying power. Healthy engagement. Are you absorbed, vigorous, and totally engaged? And remember, in reporting on that, it's usually self-report. So how dependable are they figures in relation to self-report on engagement? The Gallup report would say that 2/3 of the world's working population are actively disengaged. And of the 1/3 who are engaged, it's questionable how many are fully engaged. So that's a worry. It's a worry in terms of productivity, but it's also a worry in terms of presenteeism at work. You're there in body, but not in spirit. Work-life balance and work-life integration and work-life engagement.
Okay, so, no, come in webinar, but I'm not sure. She can't hear me, so.
Right. If we mute, if everybody could mute, please, that's great. Work-life integration seems to have taken over from the notion of work-life balance, particularly when people tasted that period of time when working from home. Okay, and ability to take responsibility for yourself, but also that responsibility towards others in the workplace. Your ability to plan, strategic foresight. There's a wonderful set of courses offered by the Copenhagen Institute of Future Studies around strategic foresight. I've done some of them, and it's really good because it gets us out of our being stuck in the present and thinking more for the future. Okay. Now, early warning signs, what are they? Well, eating and sleeping too much or too little, pulling away from people and usual activities, having low or no energy at all, feeling numb and like nothing matters, having unexplained aches and pains, feeling helpless or hopeless, smoking, drinking, or using drugs, and developing a dependency there. Nicole, if you could mute, please, it would be great. Thank you. Feeling unusually confused, forgetful, or edgy, angry, upset, worried, yelling and fighting with family and with friends. And it's spilling over into the workplace in that you're becoming edgy with others. Experiencing severe mood swings that cause problems in relationships. And finally, that inability to perform your daily tasks, as even at home with your kids, or in the workplace, or in school, or in college. These are the early warning signs, and unless they're caught, they can actually manifest themselves in many other different, deeper, more consequential ways. I just thought this was particularly poignant, posted by Pieta House here in Ireland. The graphic says it all. The empty shoes left behind, the people who said, I'm out of here. 1 person per day died by suicide in Ireland last year. 1 person takes their own lives every 40 seconds globally. More than 5,300 availed face-to-face appointments with Pieta Suicide Prevention Service this year. 1 in 7 have experienced mental health issues in the last year. And that's the 1 in 7 who have admitted it and who have done something about it. And according to Pieta, they expect the number this year to go past 8,000 availing of their services. Okay. So their advice is to look for the signs. Sleep disturbance, isolation, giving away your possessions as though they don't matter, no interest in anything, and speaking of no future. These are the warning signs we need to watch out for. What do we listen for and what do we look for? We listen for talking and writing about self-harm, dying or expressing a wish to die. We listen for mentioning of ways to die or having a suicide plan. We watch for the fixed mindset. Nothing will change. And it's that way anyway. Nothing is going to change no matter what I do. Pointing to the lack of purpose in their lives. And finally, stating that they actually feel hopeless. If you hear that, it's not to be ignored. What are you looking for? You're looking for evidence of self-harm and risk-taking. You're looking for evidence of disconnection, giving items away, saying goodbye as though it's the last goodbye. Change sleep patterns, too much or too little. You're looking for mood swings, the extremes of emotion, and you're also looking for increased alcohol and drug dependence. So their advice is to ask, and don't ask just once, ask twice, and ask sincerely, and connect with the power of the vision, the eyes, locking the eyes with somebody. How are you? How are you really? I notice you're in bad form. Can I help you? Persuade them to look for help, because nothing is so bad to bring you to the point of wanting out, and then refer. Okay, I think it's good advice. So looking at the pressure performance curve, I want you to think, where would you place yourself on this at the minute? Are you in the gray area of boredom? Are you sort of in the comfort zone? Are you in that invigorated hazard section where you're feeling a bit stretched, but you're in good form, you're on top of it? You feel invigorated and you feel alive and engaged. Or have you gone over the tip into that magenta area of strain? Are you feeling fatigued, anxious, less in control, poor judgment, poor accuracy? You're slipping. You're not your old sharp self. If you're feeling these feelings, you are in strain. Now, if you allow yourself to go unchecked and you slip into crisis, exhaustion, burnout, physical and mental health problems arising. Think, are you feeling any of these feelings right now? If so, how is it affecting you in your work? How is it affecting you in your relationships at home and in your relationships at work? How is it affecting your productivity? And how are you being viewed by others watching from afar? That's worth thinking about. So just briefly looking at stress, it's defined as a feeling of being overwhelmed, unable to cope with mental and emotional pressure, can have mental and physical consequences. The psychological symptoms and the physical symptoms, the psychological. And we have got to be very careful of the language we use when we're feeling frustrated. Oh, I'm burnt out. I'm stressed. It's just getting on top of me, because we do have a tendency to become the language we speak, the dialogue we speak. Okay? If it's filled with pessimism, we become of a pessimistic, limited mindset. Anxiety, tension, confusion, irritability, frustration, hypersensitivity, hyperactivity, suppression of feelings, poor communication, withdrawal and depression, feeling isolated and alienated, just not feeling like joining the group in the canteen at lunchtime. Boredom, job dissatisfaction, total mental fatigue, washed out, poor reasoning. You're not your usual rational self. Poor concentration levels, poor recall, loss of spontaneity and creativity, and lowered self-esteem. There's a whole body of literature on self-efficacy and self-efficacy beliefs. If you have low self-efficacy, not alone does it impact the outcomes of your work, but it impacts others you are leading or others you come in contact every day on a continual basis. So it's important to hold high levels of self-efficacy and work on it. Look at the physical symptoms: acne, headaches, rapid heartbeat, sweating, changes in your appetite patterns, digestive issues. You just don't feel well after eating, you don't feel like eating at all. Chronic pain, sleep reactivity. This comes from the Journal of Sleep Research. Stress-related worry and rumination. That thing of holding on to something, letting it disturb your sleep patterns, waking up at night worrying about something. Decreased energy and insomnia, changes in libido, and depression. And that notion of insomnia, you have to be very, very careful about how you use your emotional intelligence in the workplace. Because if you exude know-how and being on top of the game, while in actual fact it may not be true, you'll get less offers of help from others. So you will be left to do all the work because you show too much know-how. You're always well to be vulnerable and to ask for help. And when you delegate fully with 100% trust. Because if you micromanage, you lose your followers' trust. Yeah? So I like this in terms of getting us to think in a different way about the triggers and the solutions of stress. So maybe time constraints. We're all time-starved. We're always pushing, moving. And this happens when a project isn't managed adequately. To avoid this, use clear communication. Make sure that your group understand what's expected of them and know what they expect of you also, because it's a bi-directional flow of energy. Clear vision and objectives. Regular feedback at weekly meetings. So it's the consistency and follow through that gets traction and becomes embedded in the habits of the workplace, becomes embedded in the culture of the workplace. Complex problems may be the trigger. Once in the ongoing weekly meetings promote continual improvement, resulting in large problems becoming small problems because they're shared. And people work on the win-win notion of I help you, you help me, we synergize. And as Covey says, the win-win wins out. The Fortune 500 companies are all win-win companies. Why? Because they see conflict as a growth moment. They tease it out and they move on. And democratic style of leadership is used. Unrealistic expectations, weekly meetings, constant feedback in a continual loop. Therefore, expectations are manageable as targets are smart. Expectations and unrealistic expectations seem to be the order of the day in every workplace these days. So gain clarity around the expectations. Set smart goals. They say if you make these goals visible, when they're in front of you, you can double check them every so often during the day. They become embedded in your routine. Competing demands. If you have competing demands and you haven't got a structure in place to prioritize, then they all come tumbling together. I advocate using Covey's 4 quadrants of time management. What's important and urgent, what's not immediately urgent but is important, quadrant 1 and 2. Quadrant 3, Everybody's telling you it's urgent, but you know it's not important and it's not going to further you in any way. Covey says we all have a tendency to work out of quadrant 1, what's urgent and important, and quadrant 3, what everybody is shouting about, I want, it's urgent, but it's not important. He advises you should either bin that or delegate it. And the final quadrant, what's not important and not urgent, like answering your emails or investing in chatting with time wasters, etc., during the day, that should be disbanded. So we should work out of quadrant 1 and 2. So I, being very bad at keeping a diary, what I did in my practice was I took a photocopy of the 4 quadrants. I photocopied it 50 times. I put a slide bind on it, and it became my to-do list, 1 per week. So as things came at me, I decided on the hoof whether it was important and urgent, or not immediately important, but still, or not immediately urgent, but still important. And I put my tasks in each of the boxes, with the result that I trained myself to do quadrant 1 and 2, and I dispensed with quadrant 3 and 4. Limited resources. If the demands are not matched with adequate resourcing, we're in trouble because crisis sets in. And that's a hallmark, particularly in a lot of public service here in Ireland, that demands surpass the resourcing. That's why you have people out fundraising, etc., to keep things going, which is a bad idea, really, because you're maintaining bad problems. You're maintaining departments in unhealthy problems. And then limited control. What's the solution? Workers can feel a lack of control through limited opportunity for input. However, weekly meetings, which give opportunity for feedback, discussion, and planning, allow all workers to contribute to the project. So that space, that healthy psychological workspace where you can contribute and know that you're advancing the workplace, is brilliant. It works. And it gets buy-in. Now, with that, we come to the definition of burnout. And we have to be careful in saying we're burnt out. It's a state of mental, physical, and emotional exhaustion, the collective outcome of wide-ranging factors culminating in extended stress and healthy lifestyle issues, which can lead to acute depletion of the adrenal glands and the immune system. Now, this takes me now to Cindy. So Cindy, I am going to stop sharing for a minute, and I am going to hand over to you. I'll pin you here. Okay. And now back I go to my sharing. Okay. So enjoy this part of the session.
Thank you.
Not at all.
So I'd like to invite you to look at this brain picture and see the picture of the amygdala and also the prefrontal cortex. And both of these areas are very important in our learning process and unlearning process and relearning process. And they have been described before, but I enjoy describing them as well, that the amygdala is one of the oldest parts of our brain, and it has helped us survive. And we are indeed the survivors of a good functioning amygdala from our forefathers. They have been careful to be sure to get enough food and be aware of many different types of things that were stressful. The amygdala is something that is usually overactive. There are many times during the day when we don't need the amygdala, but if we're not aware that it is active, it will certainly it will cause us stress. So learning to be mindfully attentive about where my thoughts are a part of the neuroplasticity. So if you think right now about, on a scan from 1 to 10, how calm or relaxed you are, just think about just shortly, how calm or relaxed are you right now? And just write that number down. Number 1 would be very calm, relaxed, and number 10 would be very uneasy, unfocused, maybe feeling aggressive or anxious or overwhelmed or worried, just write that number down and think about which number would be most accurate for your feelings right now. So after you've written that down, you realize that you have shifted your awareness from the amygdala to the prefrontal cortex, because you are watching and being mindful of yourself and trying to estimate how your feelings are right now. So you have shifted to the front part of your brain. This is often very important to do so, because when you do that, you are just kind of overwatching things instead of reacting to things. And that's a big difference. The neuroplasticity is something that's very important in our brains, because we have realized over the last 50 years that it does change. You can change your thinking of the brain and in the brain by watching and controlling certain things that you're thinking of and things that you're not thinking of. And that in itself is so magical that it's really kind of fun to practice. We'll be doing a practice today about that. So what is neurogenesis? The neurogenesis refers to the creation of new brain cells. And that too is very exciting, because contrary to prior beliefs, modern research has revealed that certain regions of the brain, particularly in the hippocampus, are capable of generating new cells throughout adult life. That means we don't have an old brain when our age is older. Our brain continues to generate new cells, and we have also the possibility to practice generating one cells of the others. We put this interesting animation on our first presentation, and we're doing this again to show you when you are thinking, in your positive neuroplasticity, you can see how the neurons that fire together, wire together. This is a statement from Rick Hansen. And the more we practice and the more we are aware of our mental thought processes, the more that we can avoid some parts of our thought processes that are negative and don't support us in the correct way. So those are three extremely interesting things about neuroplasticity that we will now practice a little with a breathing exercise. And breathing is something that I really enjoy practicing with people, because it's something, again, that we're not necessarily mentally aware of very often. How many breaths do I take in a minute? When am I breathing quickly? When am I breathing slowly? All those things are things that we can mindfully watch. But often they just kind of take over by themselves. For example, I sit down at my computer, and when I see a lot of emails, I scan through the emails that might be the most difficult to deal with. And I realize I'm not breathing anymore. So I'm holding my breath and going through the emails, in a certain way. And after that, I realize I'm breathing very quickly. And then I'm holding my breath again and breathing very quickly. And that's something that is not necessarily mindful, but it happens. And holding your breath can have positive reactions on the brain and negative reactions depending on how mindfully we're doing it. So this is the breathing exercise today with holding of the breath. And find a comfortable place on your chair and sit with a straight back, and both of your feet are on the floor. And you can place both of your hands on your thighs so that you can kind of be in, you know, good sitting posture, and come with your mental awareness into your body. And if you enjoy doing that, then you can close your eyes so that you can maybe feel more intentionally into your body. And try to be aware of your lungs. And when you breathe in through your nose and the air gets warmed and continues into your lungs, feel how your lungs expand when you breathe in, when you inhale. And after you inhale, hold your breath for a couple of seconds. And then exhale also through the nose. And then hold your breath again. And then inhale again, counting to 4. Hold your breath. And exhale, counting to 6. And hold. Inhale. Hold. And exhale. Hold. And inhale. Hold. Exhale. Hold. Last time, inhale. Hold. And exhale. Hold. And slowly open your eyes. And write down for the second time how calm or how uneasy you feel now on a scale between 1 and 10. And check to see if that number has changed. Because the fact is, if you can breathe, if you can exhale more than you inhale on a mindful situation and hold your breath in between, then you are sending messages to your parasympathetic nerve and your parasympathetic nerve sends that on to the brain that all is well, that you are calm, and there's no worries about stress. So that would be interesting to hear if that number has changed. This is a short question and answer in between. Did anyone have a change in number between higher to lower?
I did, yes, absolutely. Change of about 3 down.
All right, good. Anybody else?
Just unmute yourselves if you'd like to speak. Yeah.
Okay, I see a thumbs up. Thank you. All right, good. More thumbs up. Okay, great. It's surprising. it's a very simple and surprising way to just calm yourself. And it's hard to do by yourself. It takes a little bit of practice. It usually helps to have someone leading you. And if you have questions, of course, it's always much more interesting, you know, to have a breathing coach that can tell you what things that you might not be thinking about. But at the same time, the practice is what can really change your, you know, your entire day. You know, instead of jumping out of the car after you come to your destination, take 5 breaths with holding in between, and you'll go to the meeting in a completely different state of mind. The same way as answering the phone, you know, take 2 breaths before you answer the phone. You'll be in a different mental state before, and you'll be have a completely different type of focus. And it really doesn't make sense. It's, you know, it's just kind of going the wrong way, because when you're in a hurry, you try to speed up. But this age-old practice that starts before Tao, that is in Chinese history, which is written down, you know, holding the breath, long exhalation breaths, always changes your brain waves, and they knew it way back then. Okay, thank you.
Hey, thank you very much, Cindy. Thank you. We enjoyed that. I hope everybody enjoyed it and benefited from it. You'll take it away with you. So I remove the pen again. Now I'm going to start sharing again to continue with the final slides. Okay, so looking at a well-being strategy, moving away from the stigma to the support. So promote, provide, protect. So you're moving from being reactive to being proactive in the workplace and letting it become embedded and part of the cultural norm in your workplace. Promote, create a healthy working environment by removing as many workplace stressors as possible. The power is with you, as you can see there from the wiring of the brain. Provide, improve individual employee reactions to stress by offering training and effective approaches to management and responding to the stressors which cannot be eradicated from the workplace. There are certain stressors in the workplace that are an essential byproduct of what it is you do, meeting deadlines, etc., but it's about controlling them. And aim to minimize the damaging consequences of stresses arising and increasing employees' coping skills through the provision of specialist support. Now, I'm going to introduce you to a potential at work toolkit, which I can provide for you with the assistance of Cindy in assisting with breathing, etc. But this will, I hope, spark ideas for you, and we're both available for calls if you're interested. So 1, prioritize employee well-being at work. Encourage, equip, embed, and try to gain alignment between all 3 facets. So set the healthy workplace environment by collectively identifying workplace stressors and agreeing approaches to remove or manage these stressors. That can be done in teams, that can be done at staff meetings, but the thing is consistency and follow through in order to change the mindset. Provide appropriate resources and education for employees to improve the way that they respond to stress. Usually contagion sets in. If something goes wrong for one and they start talking about it, everybody starts talking about it, and it becomes everybody's problem. You need to manage that. Embed, minimize adverse outcomes of stress by embedding a culture of deep care and helping individuals to cope more effectively. So it's all about that notion of care. And the word we hate using, love, loving one another every day, day in, day out, as we are and as we present. Pause, review, retract. This is so important in a world that's in a hurry. Everything is speed, 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 more, more, more. And it does not necessarily mean more productivity or that we are better as a result. Do the pillars align across encouraging, equipping, and embedding? Is there a purpose to what you are currently doing? Which pillar needs more attention than the other? I suggest we all start with encouraging and move from there. But encourage and simultaneously move for equipping. And then if you do it consistently, it becomes embedded. Get senior and middle leadership buy-in. If workers see senior and middle leaders embracing this whole notion of well-being in the workplace, and even sharing their own stories, it becomes part of the language of the workplace. It becomes accepted. Upskill by reading the literature, changing the vision. So a vision for change, vision, plan, implementation. So somebody who with an interest in this area, somebody from the senior management team, somebody from the floor, getting it together and embracing this suggested plan. So again, pause, review, retract. 1, 2, and 3, compile a list of all stakeholders. Identify those who can and should support the wellbeing initiatives. Use that data and emerge with internal data collected. And finally, design and incorporate a proposal into your organization's improvement plan. Familiarize everyone with the contents and approach before moving forward. Very often it's the lack of communication or poor communication, then failure to follow through that causes a thing not to take root and causes a thing to collapse before you get going. Share responsibility for well-being across your organization, and what better way to start than assigning champions or advocates of well-being. There will be some people who really want to embrace this and really want to give their time to it. So set up a system for advocates, provide training, establish a well-being forum or group of advocates, embed the system of regular meetings, reviews, encourage support initiatives, etc. Then seek feedback. How is it going? What else can we do to help you? Review and update the strategies made on the progress reported. So to become a potential at work advocate, somebody might say, oh my God, that's another job for me to do. Colleagues can have equal or more impact on each other's well-being as their employer, their leader, their manager, by becoming a potential advocate. By training in that training that I could offer you, and then through roundtables, spreading the good word, and to upskill colleagues in the workplace. So the potential at work advocate, what it is and what it is not. It's a peer supporter, one who raises awareness around mental health in the workplace, one who can share experience with others, and one who helps to reduce stigma around mental health in the workplace. Remember, it is not, an advocate is not a therapist, not a mental health expert, and not expected to share their own mental health journey. But it's ever so impactful if somebody in a leadership position does share their own journey, because then it becomes acceptable and normalized into the workplace that mental health does matter. So access CPD courses, do monthly newsletters with supports for colleagues, access additional resources, avail of networking opportunities, plus more as it evolves. Brainstorm ideas, embrace ideas given from the floor by others. Personalize your approach. So work to individual needs, the life stage they're at, and the uniqueness of each person, considering the generational span in any one workforce. Based on employee demographic, offer a wide-ranging program to support every employee's needs, and then personalize your approach while retaining professionalism. Enhance engagement through making the approach entirely relatable. Role model good practice. Again, the leaders and management role modeling and appreciation for mental health initiatives. The leader modeling good, healthy habits, like turning up at lunch breaks instead of having a coffee and a sandwich while still on the computer at lunch break. It's all about modeling. We all learn vicariously by watching others in action. Point 5 of 8, action, the role modeling. 1, 2, and 3. Ensure that the people leaders in your organization are aware of the support you offer vis-a-vis well-being so they can support your work and applaud it. And micro recognitions work so well, neatly couched in the everyday vernacular of the workplace. Support leaders with training and resources if they are in need of further coaching to support their team. And then outline your expectations of them and how they can support and get further involved. It's all about understanding others' expectations of you, and you making your expectations known to them. So simple is best. Don't complicate things. When we complicate things, they are bound to fail. If you keep it simple, it will work. Budget shouldn't be an issue because this can be done quite cost effectively. Brainstorm, get heads together, get as many opinions together as possible, and consult, get the employee buy-in to ensure heightened success. So it's all about involvement. Don't put obstacles in your way like, oh, we don't have the money for this. This can be done quite cheaply. It's all about ownership, taking ownership, embracing and moving on. Simple is best. Asking twice, for instance, how are you? How are you really? Sharing a poster in your staff room or in your canteen. The leader is modeling by sincerely asking how you are, meeting eyeball to eyeball and waiting for an answer instead of being in such a hurry that they run away before they hear the answer. So it's being present. Covey says we listen with the intention of replying. We do not listen with the intention of hearing what's being said. And that is the root cause of conflict in the workplace. Point 7, all about communication. So customize, choose your language and focus. Communicate frequently, use varied approaches and customize to your audience. And communication is best done face-to-face if at all possible, because it must be intermingled with the emails and with the virtual communication, otherwise it loses impact. Choose the language, be mindful of the language you use, and strive for focus in your approach to communicating well-being initiatives. So newsletters, staff-wide emails, distribution lists, the leadership team getting involved and making it a point on every staff meeting agenda. Potential at work advocates holding roundtables, upskilling others and spreading the good news. And obviously, celebrating wins. And finally, ground the planning, monitoring and tracking of initiatives in real-life data. You need the data to give it gravitas, to show that it actually is working. And by data, I don't mean just quantitative. The qualitative is very, very important as well. The richness of the language used in feedback. Ensure evidence and enact. Ensure clarity around how we will measure impact of initiatives. Use people data you already have as a launchpad. And consider use of well-being goals for the leaders also. If you get leadership buy-in, you're on a runner. Okay? So what do they say? Without the metrics, you're simply somebody else with an opinion. So metrics, the quantitative and the qualitative, give gravitas. And finally, actioning the data. Monitor your choice of metrics. Track the trends emerging from the data. Seek feedback. Analyze, research the trends, record, keep a tracker on it, and use the qualitative feedback approach also. Let me just introduce you momentarily to the RAW, Workplace Resilience and Wellbeing Psychometric. I'm a RAW master practitioner. I'm a great believer in this psychometric. It examines your resilience levels across 5 pillars: energy, future focus, inner drive, flexible thinking, strong relationships. And it shows the gap that's occurring for you in each of these 5 pillars. So can you imagine if I did an individual report for everyone? You can have a snapshot report or you can have a more detailed full report. But then having done it on a workforce, I can pull a team overview of how the team is working. So for instance, if I gave you feedback that the team was working on a gap of 40% on strong relationships, wouldn't that be a strong indicator to you as manager or as executive as to where you need to put the focus for the next round of training and CPD? If energy was coming in at a 50% gap, you're in trouble because people are really sapped. They're overstretched. They're becoming anxious. They're probably stressed, and some of them are complaining of burnout. If there was a big gap in inner drive and future focus, again, that I can produce an action plan as to how that can be tackled individually and as a collective. Okay, note the URL at the bottom. That will give you another spin on it if you want to go further in depth into it for your workplace. So to wind down, this is what both myself and Cindy offer. I offer Capital Quest executive coaching and upskilling to the C-suite and senior executives across a series of modules, but it's unique in that it's not just coaching, it's upskilling as well, to ensure that they have cutting edge information that they can use and that can trickle down in the organization. Career coaching, career progression, and or settling into a new role. Wired for Success, workforce talent audit. I believe there's a lot of talent latent in workforces that's not being used, and it's causing frustration. I can go in and do an audit, use the raw, use DISC, road mapping your wellbeing journey, such as what we did here today. Then training, talks, workshops, face-to-face or online. And then finally, culture, the workplace culture audit. Pre-merger, very, very important. And post-COVID-19, particularly when you have hybrid work arrangements. So your company's internal compass. Cindy, would you like to introduce your packages there?
Yes, thank you. I offer meditation and journaling, and early morning breath work challenge, and early morning breath and body work. And I also work with motivation. Motivation is one of the things that often is lacking. So, and it usually has several different types of sources. So a one-on-one coaching on motivation, as well as inner well-being, offering discipline, accountability, and exercise and desired change, and inspiration for inner worth and connection to a mentor for your chosen aims and transformation at the workplace.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Our details are there if any of you would like to get in touch with us, even just for a chat, for a more in-depth conversation. Okay, recommended reading this time round. Beautiful book by Linda Graham, Resilience. And both myself and Cindy are in agreement. This is a brilliant book to have on your shelf. Cindy?
Yes, and it also has a lot of excellent practices in this resilient book, where it really does help you to practice on various levels of the things that she is writing about. So you have the intellectual input as well as the praxis. And the second one is the source. This is from neuroplasticity professor, Dr. Tara Swart. And she has written a new book. This is a very new book about neuroplasticity, and goes into several different areas that haven't been done yet. So I highly recommend that if you like neuroplasticity. And of course, Thich Nhat Hanh's Breathe, You Are Alive also means that you are aware that you are alive when you breathe. So that's also an excellent book from Thich Nhat Hanh.
Very good, thank you. And then Into the Magic Shop, a wonderful book, a neurosurgeon's true story of life-changing magic of compassion and mindfulness, and how as a child he used to go into a shop, and he eventually called it the magic shop. The lady, the owner of the shop, invited him in, and each day she gave him a new nugget of wisdom, and she guided him along, and he would say that she was his inspiration. That is a beautiful read. And finally then, the free booklet, Roadmap Your Wellbeing Journey, which I will go out to each one of you once we get the talk uploaded as well. Okay, I want to introduce you to our next November free webinar, and it's all around the immunity to change mapping, understanding change, understanding people's adversity to change, and how to get around it. It's a wonderful practice that is really taking root in organizations across the world. Immunity to change mapping. It's going to be a great session, so don't miss it.